So I'm a CrossFitter who also is vegan. So now you know the answer to that meme, if you've seen that floating around the internet. Which do we talk about first? It's typically CrossFit, and I'll kind of get into the reasons for that. So I'm going to tell you this morning about being a vegan athlete, my journey to both of those things, being a vegan and being an athlete, and why those things kind of tie together in my life today. Grew up in the Midwest, pretty typical upbringing, meat and potatoes family, lived with my mom and stepdad, and we tried to eat healthy, but for us that was kind of typical low-fat American diet. Parents didn't do very well with that. At some point tried the Atkins diet, which, as you know, is a lot of meat, and they had success with it. They lost a lot of weight and were pretty happy, and so there was a time where I thought, okay, well, eating meat, like, you lose weight. If you lose weight, you're healthy, so that's a good thing. But then as I got older and got into college, I was around more and more vegans and vegetarians, and the things that started to influence me were not necessarily things that I read online or protests or demos. I think all those things are valuable, but what influenced me was the people in my life who simply were vegan or vegetarian around me every day. I'd see them eating their tofurkey or their tofu or their vegan versions of whatever it was I eating. I remember my roommate at the time one day bringing home those Ives deli slices that you put in sandwiches. And I just looked at them, and this was back in 2005, and thinking, like, why would you eat this? Like, why would you make a plant-based version of a deli slice? And so I chided him and made fun of him at great length for being vegan, until about a year later, of course, I was vegan. And that's often how it goes. The people, the loudest detractors, the people that are yelling and screaming the most, are typically the people most moved by whatever philosophy or worldview is put in front of them. And they're so challenged and they're so defensive because they know deep down that it might actually be right for them. So my journey to veganism started, like a lot of people, with vegetarianism. And then over the course of about a month, I switched to veganism. Did most of my grocery shopping at the big chains, Meijer, Walmart, Kroger. I was living in Indianapolis, Indiana at the time, and I was surprised to find that about 6 months in, it wasn't all that challenging. I was cooking more. Luckily, my mom instilled in me an ethic of cooking and of preparing food at home, which I was very happy about. And I really started to enjoy the food I was eating. I was sleeping better, I felt healthier. And so in tandem with this, I thought, like I'm doing right by my body. I wasn't an ethical vegan yet. I should probably exercise. That's the thing people do. So I did the thing that most people do. I started running. And I would run, and I started at half a mile, and then I ran a mile, and then I ran 5 miles. And by the time I was up to about 8 miles a day, I thought, okay, like I'm in pretty good shape. I'm eating vegan food, I'm tracking my calories, I'm running all the time. And then I got a stress fracture because I ran so much and I had no training plan. I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted to be healthy. So the stress fracture set me back. I just stopped running. I started going to the gym and doing weightlifting. I had a PT that was kind of trying to rehab me. And I never got back into running, at least in the next few years, in the same way. But I was still vegan. And as the years went on and as veganism became easier and easier to me, I really started to become an advocate for it. And I became an ethical vegan. Really based around the idea of speciesism. Speciesism is a concept where we treat some species differently than we do others. So there's a famous brochure and ad put out by Mercy for Animals that says, why love one and eat the other? So why do we love dogs but eat pigs? Why do we love cats but eat cows? And it was sort of this ethic that really started to stick with me as I was vegan for more and more years. I've been vegan almost 12 years at this point. And I felt that it wasn't only right for me to be vegan, but to really try to become an advocate for one and to do activism for veganism as well. Meanwhile, on the sports side, I got into road cycling. So I was racing road races and criteriums. I did the Tour of Grandview one year here in Columbus. And I was having a lot of fun. I was a vegan athlete, but the two were still relatively disparate for me. I was a vegan for ethical reasons, and I was an athlete because it was fun and I wanted to be healthy. And as the years went on, those things became more and more intertwined. So around 2011, I got into CrossFit. I was burnt out on cycling, looking for something else to do. Like a lot of people who try CrossFit, they get really into it, like really into it. You start buying all the gear, you're going 5-6 times a week, you're getting injured because you're doing it too much. And that was really the reason most CrossFitters get injured, is they just go too much. It's not that CrossFit is particularly injurious, more so than running or cycling or wrestling or any other sport. It's just that the people that do it are so excited and so motivated that they go too often at the beginning. Just like with any sport, right? You have to gradually ramp up your mileage or your days of the week at the gym. So I got into CrossFit, and I was CrossFitting all the time, and then I started getting really into weightlifting, which is a specific component of CrossFit. And what I found was that rather than kind of going to these gyms with, guns blazing, pun intended, if you want it to be that, and wearing all the vegan shirts and saying, hey guys, who here is vegan? I hear you guys are paleo, that's crazy, blah, blah, blah. I would kind of show up, I'd be eating one of my vegan protein bars, and somebody would come up to me and say, hey, what's that? And I'd be like, oh, it's a protein bar. And like, oh, wait, aren't you vegan? Because they would see it on social media or something. And I would say, yeah, this protein bar is actually vegan. Here, it's soy protein or pea protein or whatever. And that conversation would kind of open up the dialogue, would plant that seed, and that's a reference that, in the activist world, especially in the vegan world, we use a lot. We plant the seed of veganism, and it grows. It can grow fast, it can grow slow, it can grow big, and then get small again sometimes, and then grow larger. And for me, it grew and grew, and now, as a dedicated ethical vegan, one of the things I do is just plant seeds all the time. And sometimes they're more direct, like this event, and sometimes they're less direct, where somebody sees me at the gym wearing a vegan shirt or eating something vegan, or maybe they have a friend who's vegan and they're just excited to tell me. People who are vegan know this experience, right? Like you're vegan and somebody sees something vegan, they're like, oh, I gotta tell you about this thing, it's vegan. Like it could be something that you've heard 6 times. Like, yeah, man, I heard about it like 5 years ago when it came out. But then they tell you because you're their only vegan friend. You've probably experienced that too. You're the only vegan I've ever met. And I know hundreds of vegans, so it's always kind of funny. So a few years ago, my journey to veganism is fully in place now. I'm doing CrossFit. I became a CrossFit coach. So I'm really I've drunk the Kool-Aid, pretty strong at this point. The vegan Kool-Aid, of course. And then I learned about this team, Strong Hearts Vegan Power, which is a running team. And it's all these vegans, and they go out to the East Coast and they do these crazy ultra marathons as a relay team. So they get 12 runners together and they run 200 miles in about 24 hours. Each runner runs about 5 or 6 miles 3 times over the course of 20 to 30 hours. And I really wanted to do it, but I thought, man, I'm more of a weights guy now. Like the running thing, that was college, I don't really want to run that much. But it looked so much fun that I decided I was going to give it a shot. So I cut back on the weightlifting just a little bit, up to the running a little bit, and last year in the spring, I went out to the Cape Cod area. We did a wonderful relay. It's part of the Reebok Ragnar Relay Series. And I ran with this vegan team, Strong Hearts Vegan Power. I did it again in the fall. It was an incredible experience. We're always looking for new vegan runners, so if you're interested, you can just Google this phrase. And then this year, I found an even more exciting team that was more in line with my pursuits. It was a vegan team called Plant Built, which is a vegan muscle team. And over the course of about a week, about a month ago in 2017, we went to Austin, Texas, competed in the Naturally Fit Games. We have bodybuilders, weightlifters, crossfitters, kettlebell sport people, power lifters, basically every vegan athlete you can imagine in the strength world. Everyone there was vegan. A lot of them were a lot bigger than me. These are jacked men and women who are eating a vegan diet and building muscle on plant protein. And it was just this incredible week of competing at this competition, which was not a vegan competition, but where vegans were there and were winning and were dominating. And I've found that the more athletic events I do, when I'm around people that tend to align with my worldview and understand the value of veganism, it just makes the experience better. Because we're there as advocates, not only for veganism, but most of all for the animals. That's why we do what we do, right? Is to save the lives of animals, to reduce suffering. So when I talk to people now, and people say, oh, you're a vegan CrossFitter, what should you talk about first? The answer is always CrossFit, because CrossFit is this nebulous brand, it's this fitness trend. People can hate on it all they want. It's going to be there. There's plenty of gyms and this and that. But when they find out I'm vegan, that's kind of when that seed gets planted. They have that little light bulb moment. They go, okay, I knew this guy was a weirdo because he's a CrossFitter, but he's also a vegan? What? And they they get this look on their face, and then it's, where do you get your protein? And it's this barrage of questions. And I found that by being passionate about both of those things, CrossFit and veganism, I'm able to influence, sometimes very directly and sometimes very indirectly, a lot of different people in the flesh, at the gym, online through social media, in a number of different arenas. And it's really, I feel really grateful to be able to share that with people all the time, both for health reasons, for environmental reasons, and most of all for ethical reasons, because I think it's the right thing to do to adopt a vegan diet and to live a vegan lifestyle where we can reduce suffering and try to be better stewards of the world that we live in. So it makes me really happy to do the things that I do, and I'm really grateful to be able to talk to you guys. Thank you so much. I can answer a couple questions real quick, and then we're on a short time thing, so any more I'll grab at the table over there. But any questions you have about training, vegan diet? Yes? What is CrossFit? That's a great question. So there's some long and short answers to that, but CrossFit is, a very short answer is functional fitness, high intensity functional fitness. So CrossFit ethos is sort of a 1 hour class, 3 to 5 times a week. We do a combination of strength training, endurance training, gymnastics, some cool downs, some warm-ups, and stretching, and that's really it. So it's not some long drawn-out plan, but its specialty is non-specialization. That's one of the things they say. And I encourage people to try it. There's gyms all over the city that have free intro classes once a week or once a month. And it's not as intimidating as you think, I promise. I know you've seen the videos on YouTube and you're like, oh man, this CrossFit sounds crazy, but my gym, CrossFit Clintonville, is a really accessible place, and we love getting new people. Any other questions? Yeah?
Do you take any supplements or sports kinds of additives that maybe common vegans don't?
Sure, that's a great question, and because of my time, I haven't really gotten into diet or anything today. There's a few that I do take under consideration. I think sort of the big four when it comes to veganism are B12, which comes from bacteria. You can get it in fortified foods, you can get it in nutritional yeast, or you can take a supplement once a week. You need, your daily dosage is in micrograms for B12. That's like a tiny, tiny amount. There's vitamin D, which of course sunlight's the best source depending on where you live in the world. Supplementation, and again, fortified foods. There's lots of vegan vitamin D out there now. Iron, which again is in a variety of different foods. Molasses being my favorite, because you would never think that iron is in molasses, but it's really high in molasses. It's really high in iron. I use cast iron skillet too, which is a great way to get iron. And then beyond protein, obviously, which we all know is in plants, right? Plants have protein, is the omega-3s and 6s and those fatty acids that we really need. And flax and chia seed are my favorite for those. Putting flax oil on salads, putting chia seeds in yogurt or cereal. Those are really the main supplements that I focus on. There are sport-specific supplements like creatine, which I think are good, and if you're an athlete and you're looking to increase the gains a little bit, things like that. BCAAs, branched-chain amino acids, which you can get vegan, good post-workout. But those are all pretty secondary to eating a healthy diet, regardless of where you are in your journey to veganism. Eating more fruits and vegetables, eating more whole grains, eating more natural, real foods. And then those micronutrients, B12, vitamin D, iron, and omega-3s are something to kind of watch out for. But all available in a plethora of vegan foods. Guys, thank you so much.